I never thought my life would change so dramatically in a single day, but that's exactly what happened. On that fateful Tuesday in April, it started off as just another crappy day at the office. I worked, I should say, as a financial advisor at a big firm in the city that morning. My biggest client called to tell me he was pulling all his investments. Then I spilled coffee all over my white shirt, right before a big presentation. And to top it all off, my boss reamed me out in front of the entire department for a minor error in a report by the time 5 hours rolled around. All I wanted was to go home, crack open a beer, and forget the day had ever happened. If only I'd known what was waiting for me. There, I pulled into the driveway of our suburban MC Munion, the one my wife Olivia had insisted we buy, even though it was way more space than we needed. As I was about to walk in the front door, I heard voices coming from the partially open window of our sitting room. I'm telling you, Sophia, it was amazing. Olivia was saying I recognized the excited term she used when gossiping with her sister. We did it 3 times today, once in the morning after Jack left for work, then again at lunch and just an hour ago. God, I've forgotten how good Durr is in bed. I froze my hand on the doorknob. Derek, that was the name of Olivia's college boyfriend, the one who'd broken her heart. Hart senior year. What the hell was she talking about? Aren't you worried? Jack will find out? Sophia asked. Olivia laughed dismissively. Please, that oblivious workaholic. He's too wrapped up in his precious job to notice anything. Besides, it doesn't matter. Anyway, I've decided I'm done pretending I'm filing for divorce. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. Divorce, after only 3 years of marriage. Are you sure that's wise? Sophia sanded hesitant. I mean, Jack comes from money. You've got a pretty cushy life with him. Oh, don't worry, I've got it all figured out, Olivia said smugly. California is a community property state. That means I'm entitled to enough of everything, including all those assets he inherited when his dad died last year once the divorce is final. I'll be set for life, and Derek and I can finally be together without having to sneak around. I stumbled backwards, reading from what I just heard. The woman I pledged to love and cherish till death, to us part, had been cheating on me. And now she was planning to leave me and take half of everything I owned in the process. Somehow, I managed to get back in my car. Without making a sound, I peeled out of the driveway and just started driving aimlessly. My mind racing, how long had this been going on? How could I have been so blind? The signs were there, if I was honest with myself. The way Olivia always seemed distracted and uninterested when we were together. Her constant excuses for why she didn't want to be intimate. The hush-firm conversations that ended abruptly when I walked in the room. I thought back to the early days of our relationship. We'd met at a charity gala shortly after ID started. To my job at the firm, Olivia was stunningly beautiful, charming, and seemed genuinely interested in me. Things moved quickly after that. Within 6 months, we were engaged and we timed the knot in a lavish ceremony, less than a year after our first date. At the time, I'd been so caught up in the whirlwind romance that I ignored the voice in the back of my head telling me it was all happening too fast. Now, I realized Olivia had been playing me from the start. She'd seen a naive rich boy and decided to sink her clothes in as the initial shock wore off. Cold anger started to set. Like hell was I going to let her get away with this? I may have been a fool, but I wasn't about to let her ruin me financially too. I pulled into the parking lot of a 24-hour diner and tried to calm my racing thoughts enough to come up with a plan. I needed to act fast before Olivia could file those divorce papers. First things first, I needed a lawyer and a damn good one. I scrolled through my contacts until I found the number for Eth. And Goldstein, he was the best divorce attorney in the state and had helped my college roommate through a nasty spit last year. Ethan, it's Jack Thorne. Listen, I need your help, and I need it immediately. How soon can you meet? 20 minutes later. I was sitting across from Ethan in a private booth at the back of the diner, pouring out the whole sordid story. To his credit, he listened without judgment, only interrupting occasionally to ask for clarification on certain details. When I finished, Ethan leaned back and steepled his fingers. All right, Jack, here's what we're going to do. First, We need to secure your assets before your wife can touch them. I'm going to put you in touch with the forensic accountant. I know he'll help us track down and document every penny that's rightfully yours alone." He pulled out a legal pad and started scribbling notes. "Next, we aid to file for divorce ourselves before she has a chance to. That way, we control the narrative from the start. We cite infidelity as grands, which will work in our favor when it comes to the division of assets." I nodded, feeling a glimmer of hope for the first time since overhearing Olivia's conversation. "What about the house and our other joint property leave?" "That to me," Ethan said confidently. "I've got a few tricks up my sleeve that should help us come out on top there. Now, do you have some place you can stay for the next few days? It's best if you're not in the house where we serve her with the papers." I thought for a moment. "Yeah, I can crush in my buddy Mike's place. He's got a spare room, perfect. Go there now and pack a bag with anything essential you might need. Try to act normal if you run into your wife. We don't want to tip our hand just yet." I thanked Ethan profusely and headed out my mind, reeling from how quickly my life had changed. Just that morning, I'd been a happily married man or so, I thought. Now I was plotting divorce strategy in a dingy diner booth. When I got home, the house was mercifully quiet. I assumed Olivia had gone to bed. I crept up to our bedroom and quickly packed a duffel bag with clothes and toiletries. As I was about to leave, my eyes fell on the framed photo on my nightstand. It showed Olivia and me on our honeymoon in Blay, grinning widely as we posed in front of a beautiful sunset. I picked up the frame and stared at it, searching for any sign in our impressions that it had all been a lie. But all I saw were two people who looked blissfully in love. With a sigh, I placed the photo face down and quietly left the room. The next few days passed in a billar of meetings with lawyers, accountants, and bank managers. I threw myself into the task of untangling our finances with single-minded focus. It was easier than dwelling on the emotional devastation of my marriage. Imploding finally, everything was in place. I'd managed to secure the bulk of my assets, including my inheritance and accounts that Olivia couldn't touch. Ethan had filed the divorce papers and was set to serve them to her that afternoon. I decided to be there. Ian, it happened. I wanted to see her face when she realized her plan had backfired spectacularly. I let myself into the house quietly and made my way to the kitchen. I could hear Olivia humming to herself as she chopped vegetables for dinner. The domesticate of the scene made my chest ache. How many times had I come home to find her like this, thinking she was preparing a meal for her loving husband, when really she was counting down the minutes until she could be with her lover again. I cleared my throat and she turned a look of surprise fitting across her face. "Jack, you're home early? I wasn't expecting you for another hour at least." "Clearly," I said coldly. She must have sensed something was off because her brow furrowed in concern. "Is everything okay? You look upset." I've opened my mouth to reply but was cut off by the sound of the doorbell. "Right on cue, I'll get it," I said, heading for the front door. I opened it to find Ethan's assistant standing there with a thick envelope. "Olivia Thorne?" she asked Briscoe. "She's inside," I replied, stepping back to let her in. Olivia appeared in the hallway, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "Can I help you?" The assistant held out the envelope. "Olivia Thorne, you've been served." Olivia's face drained of color as she took the envelope with trembling hands. She looked at me in confusion. "Jack, what's going on?" I crossed my arms and leaned against the wall. "Why did you open it and find out?" With shaking fingers, she tore open the envelope and scanned the contents. I saw the exact moment realization dawned. Her eyes widened in shock, and her mouth fell open. You're divorcing me." "But how did you," she trailed off as understanding set in. "You know that you've been your ex-boyfriend behind my back, that you were planning to bleed me dry in the divorce." "Yeah, I know all about it." I spat. Olivia's shock quickly morphed to anger. "How dare you? You had no right to go through my things." I barked at a harsh off. I didn't have to you, and your sister really should learn to keep your voices down when the windows are open. She paled even further, if that was possible. Jack, please let me explain. It's not what you think. Save it. I cut her off. I had everything I needed to hear. It's over. Olivia, you'll be hearing from my lawyer about division of assets and alimony. Spoiler alert, you're not getting nearly as much as you hoped. I've brushed past her and headed upstairs to grab the rest of my things. As I was packing up the last of my clothes, Olivia appeared in the doorway. Where are you going to go? She asked in a small voice. I zipped up my suitcase with more force than necessary. That's none of your concern anymore. Jack, please. She pleaded, grabbing my arm as I tried to leave the room. Can't we talk about this? I made a terrible mistake, I know that, but I love you. We can work through this for a moment. I've almost wavered. Part of me wanted desperately to believe her, to think there was some way to salvage our marriage. But then I remembered the casual way she discussed her infidelity with her sister, how she'd... Dee laughed about my obliviousness. The words "I love you" ran hollow after everything I'd heard. I jarred my arm out of her grasp. No. Olivia, we can't. You don't love me. You never did. I was just a ticket to you. Tears spilled down her cheeks. That's not true. I did love you. I still do. Dee was a mistake. Please give me another chance. But I was already halfway down the stairs, my suitcase bumping against each step goodbye. Olivia, I hope you and Dare are very happy together. I walked out the front door to the sound of her sobs, got in my car, and drove away without looking back the next few weeks. PED in a haze, I stayed with my friend Mike, seeping on his lumpy couch and trying to piece my life back together. The divorce proceedings dragged on with Olivia fighting tooth and nail for every penny she could get. But thanks to Ethan's skill and the evidence of her infidelity, she ended up with far less than she'd hoped as the dust began to settle. I realized I needed a fresh start. The thought of staying the city potent, tearly running into Olivia or being surrounded by reminders of our life together was unbearable. I'd always harbored a secret fantasy of living on a ranch, spending my days working with my hands, instead of staring at spreadsheets. It seemed as good a time as any to make that dream a reality. After some research, I found a cattle ranch about 3 hours outside the city. It was looking for hands. The pay wasn't great, but room and board were included. It would be a far cry from my cushy corporate lifestyle, but that was exactly what I wanted. I called up the ranch owner, a gruff-sounding man named Bill, and arranged to come out for a trial period. 2 days later, I was bumping down a dusty road in my city's slicker SUV, watching the urban sprawl give way to rolling hills and open plains. As I pulled up to the main house, a weather-beaten man in his 60s came out to greet me. This must be Bill. He looked me up and down skeptically. Taking in my pressed C's and loafers, you, Jack? He asked roughly. I nodded suddenly, feeling very out of place. That's me. Thanks for having me out here. Bill grunted. Don't thank me yet. Still got to see if you can hack it. You ever worked on a ranch before? No, sir. I admitted, but I'm a hard worker and I learn quick. He raised an eyebrow. We'll see about that. Come on, I'll show you where you'll be staying. He led me to a small bunkhouse where the other ranch hands lived. There were about half a dozen men inside, all eyeing me curiously as Bill introduced me. This is Jack. He's going to be trying out for a spot with us. Make him feel welcome with that. He left me to get settled in. I smiled awkwardly at my new bunkmates, acutely aware of how out of place I must look. One of the men, a lanky guy about my age, with a thick mustache, stuck out his hands. Welcome aboard, I'm Tom. I shook it gratefully. Nice to meet you, Tom. Thanks for having me, he grinned. Don't thank us yet. Waffle. You see what Bill's got in store for you tomorrow. The other men chuckled ominously at that. I gulped, wondering what exactly I'd gotten myself into. I didn't have to wait long to find out. Bill roused us all before dawn the next morning. After a hurried breakfast of rubbery eggs and gritty coffee, we headed out to the stables, all right, city boy. Bill said, tossing me a cola rope. Let's see how you do with Diablo here. He gestured to a massive black stallion pouring to the ground. In one of the stalls, the horse snorted and tossed its head as if sensing my fear. I looked at Bill in alarm. "You want me to ride that?" he smoked. "Nope. Just want you to get a saddle on him." I glanced around at the other ranch, who were watching with poorly concealed amusement. Clearly, this was some kind of initiation ritual. Taking a deep breath, I approached the stall. Diablo's ears flattened against his head, and he bared his teeth menacingly. "Nice horsey," I said in what I hoped was a soothing tone. "Let's be friends, okay?" I reached out to pat his neck, and he snapped at my hand. I jerked back just in time to avoid losing a finger. The other men burst out. T laughing, even Bill cracked a smile. "Maybe we should start you off with something a little tamer," he said. Taking pity on me, he led me over to a gentle-looking mare named Buttercup. Over the next few hours, Bill and the others showed me the basics of caring for and riding horses by lunchtime. I was sore in places I didn't know could be sore, covered in dust and sweat, and sporting what was sure to be an impressive array of bruises. But I was also exhilarated in a way I hadn't felt in years. That afternoon, we moved on to mending fences. I expected it to be easier than horseback riding, but I quickly learned that wielding a post-hole digger was its own special form of torture. By dinner time, my hands were covered in blisters, and every muscle in my body was screaming as we sat around the long table in the bunkhouse, eating a hearty meal of beef stew and cornbread. I caught Bill watching me thoughtfully. "You did all right today?" "Jack," Bill said roughly for a city slicker. I managed a tired smile. "Thanks, I've got a lot to learn, but I'm enjoying it so far." He nodded approvingly. "That's the right attitude. We'll make a rancher out of you yet as the day ess into weeks." I slowly began to find my footing on the ranch. The work was backbreaking and the hours were long, but I found myself thriving in ways I never had. In my cushy office job, there was something deeply satisfying about collapsing to bed each night. Muscles aching from honest work, I also started to bond with the other ranch hands. Tom in particular took me under his wing, patiently showing me the ropes and laughing good-naturedly at my city boy mistakes. "You should have seen your face the first time you had to help Bertha cough." He chuckled one evening as we sat on the porch, sipping beers after a long day's work. I groaned at the memory. I still have nightmares about. That I didn't know. No so much goop could come out of one animal. Tom clapped me on the shoulder. "You did good, though. Kept your cool and got the job done. That's what counts out here." Shh. His words warned me more than I care to admit. I'd been so focused on proving myself that I hadn't realized how much I'd come to value the respect and camaraderie of these men. As spring turned to summer, I found myself settling into the rhythm of ranch life. I still had moments of out usually when I was knee and manual or trying to wrestle a stubborn steer, but they were becoming fewer and farther between one sweltering afternoon. In July, Bill called me over as I was finishing up my chores. "Jack, I need you to make a run into town." He said the feed store called our order came in early, and they need the space. "Think you can handle the big truck?" I nodded, trying not to show how pleased I was at being trusted with his task. "No problem, boss. I'll head out now." The drive into the nearby town of Oakdale was a welcome break from the non-stop physical labor of the ranch. As I cruised down the dusty roads, windows down and country music blaring from the radio, I marveled at how different my life was now compared to just a few months ago. Gone were the designer suits and power lunches. My hands were calloused, my skin bronzed from arrows in the sun. I'd lost the soft pudge around my middle that came from too many business dinners and replaced it with le muscle more than the physical changes, though I felt different on the inside. The constant stress and pressure of my old life had melted away, replaced by a sense of purpose and contentment. I never know before I was so lost in thought that I almost missed the turn. For the feed store cursing under my breath, I swerved at the last second, only an annoyed honk from the car behind me. As I backed the truck up to the loading dock, a pick brunette in cough shorts and a play shirt tied at the waist came out to greet me. "You must be from the Rocking Bee," she said with a friendly smile. "I'm Sarah. My dad owns the store." I hopped out of the truck suddenly, very aware of my sweaty dirt streak appearance. "Nice to meet you, Sarah. I'm Jack. You're new around here, aren't you?" she asking. D as we started loading bags of feed onto the truck. "I don't remember seeing you before." I nodded. "Yeah, I started the ranch a couple months ago. Still learning the ropes." Sar's eyes lit up with interest. "Oh, wow. What made you decide to become a ranch hand? If you don't mind me asking, that is..." I hesitated. Unsure how much to share, I had need. A change of pace, wanted to try something completely different. She must have sensed my reluctance to elaborate, because she quickly changed the subject. We chatted easily as we finished loading the truck, and I found myself enjoying her company more than I had anyone's in a long time. As I was about to leave, Sarah hesitated for a moment before saying, "Hey, some of us locals are having a bonfire out at Miller Pond on Saturday night. You should come if you're not busy. It'd be a good chance to meet more people in town." I was taken aback by the invitation. I've been so focused on my work at the ranch that I hadn't given much thought to socializing. "That sounds great," I heard myself saying, "I'll try to make it." Sarah beamed, "Awesome. It starts around 8. Just follow the Deer Road past the old Johnson place and you can't miss it." As I drove back to the ranch, my mind was buzzing. Was this a date? Did I even want it to be a date? The idea of getting involved with someone so soon after Olivia made me uneasy. But then again, maybe it was time to start moving on. I was still moneyed over when I got back to the ranch as I started unloading the feed. Tom wandered over to help. "How was the trip into town?" he asked. "Fine," I replied, then hesitated before adding, "I but invited to a bonfire on Saturday night." Tom's zibrows shot up. "No kidding, let me guess." "Sarah from the feed store," I nodded. Surprised. "How?" He chuckled. Sarah had her eye on every eligible bachelor in a 50 m radius. Since she moved back from college, she's a nice girl. Though, you should go. I rubbed the back of my neck awkwardly. I don't know. It's been a while since I've done the whole dating thing, and to be honest, I'm not sure. "I'm ready," Tom gave me a knowing look. "This have anything to do with why you left the city?" I sighed. Sometimes I forgot how perceptive Tom could be. Yeah, he could say that he was quiet for a moment as we finished unloading. Then he said, "Look, Jack, I don't know what happened to you before you came here, and you don't have to tell me if you don't want to. But I do know that isolating yourself isn't the answer. Go to the bonfire, have some fun. You don't have to marry the girl. Just enjoy being around people your own age." For a change, I'm over at his words for the rest of the week. By Saturday, I decided to take his advice. I borrowed Tom's beat-up Chevy, since my own car was way too flashy for casual bonfire, and headed into town. The bonfire was already in full swing when I arrived. A group of about 20 people were gathered around a roaring fire, drinking beer and roasting marshmallows. Country music play from someone's pickup truck, and the air was filled with laughter and chatter. I spot-sped Sarah talking to a group of girls and made my way over. Her face lit up when she saw me. "Jack, you made it," she exclaimed, giving me a quick hug. "Come on, let me introduce you to everyone." The next few hours passed in a blur of introductions, jokes, and stories. I found myself relaxing and genuinely enjoying myself. For the first time in months, these people were so different from my old social circle in the city. Down to earth, unpretentious, and genuinely friendly. As the night wore on, I found ourselves sitting a little apart from the others, our shoulders touching as we gazed into the fire. So she said softly, "Are you ever going to tell me the real reason you left the city to become ranch hand?" I looked at her in surprise. "What makes you think there's more to the story?" she smiled. "Jack, I grew up in a small town. I know the look of someone running from something, plus you still have the tan rinds. No real cowboy would be caught dead in brand new Wranglers." I laughed. Caught afu by her perceptiveness, busted, you're right. There is more to the story. It's not a very happy one, though. Sarah's expression softened sometimes. Talking about it helps, but only if you want to. Maybe it was the beer or the warmth of the fire, or just the fact that I was tired of carrying the weight of my secret alone. Whatever the reason, I found myself opening up to Sarah about everything: my failed marriage, Olivia's betrayal, my impulsive decision to start over at the ranch. Sarah listened without interrupting at hand, finding mine in the darkness. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "Wow," she finally said. "That's quite a story. I'm so sorry you had to go through all that." I shrug, trying to play it off. It is what it is. "I'm doing better now. I think the ranch has been good for me." She squeezed my hand. "I'm glad for what it's worth." "I think you're incredibly brave. Not many people would have the courage. Completely start over like that." Her words touched something deep inside me, and I felt a lump form in my throat. "Thanks, I managed to say that. Means a lot." We sat in comfortable silence for a while. After that, watching the fire die down to embers as people started to head home, Sarah turned to me with a shy smile. "Listen, I know you're probably not looking for anything serious right now, but I really like you, Jack. Would you maybe want to go out sometime just as friends, if that's all the comfortable with?" I hesitated, torn between the attraction I felt for Sarah and the fear of getting hurt again. But then I remembered Tom's advice about not isolating myself. "I'd like that," I said finally. "But you're right. I'm not ready for anything serious yet. Is that okay?" Sarah nodded. "More than okay. We'll take it slow. See where things go. No pressure." As I drove back to the ranch that night, I felt lighter than I had in months. Opening up to Sora had released some of the pent-up emotions I've been carrying around, and the prospect of exploring a new relationship, even if it was just friendship for now, gave me something to look forward to over the next few weeks. Sarah and I started spending more time together. We'd meet for coffee in town on my days off, or she'd come out to the ranch to watch me work and laugh at my still occasional fumbles. True to her word, she never pushed for more than I was ready to give. We kept things casual and friendly, but I could feel myself starting to open up more to trust again. One evening in late August, Sarah and I were walking along the fence line of the ranch, watching the sun set over the hills. We'd been talking and laughing about nothing in particular, when Sarah suddenly grew serious. "Jack," she said, stopping and turning to face me, "I need to tell you something." My heart skipped a beat. Had she grown tired of waiting for me to be ready for more? Was she going to end things? "What is it?" I asked, trying to keep the nervousness out of my voice. Sarah took a deep breath. "I got a job offer in Chicago. It's a great opportunity, something I've been working towards for a long time, but I'm not sure I want to take it." I blinked in surprise. Said, this wasn't at all what I'd been expecting. Why not, if it's such a great opportunity? She looked up at me, her eyes shining in the fading light. "Because of you, Jack. I think I'm falling in love with you, and I don't want to leave. If there's a chance you might feel the same way." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. A whirlwind of emotions swept through me. Fear, excitement, doubt, hope. "Sarah," I trail off, not sure what to say. She held up a hand. "You don't have to answer right now. I know this is a lot to spring on you. Just think about it." "Okay, the job doesn't start for another month. I have some time to decide." I nodded mutely, my mind reeling. Sarah gave me a small smile and a quick kiss on the cheek before heading back to her car that night. I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. Sarah's confession had forced me to confront feelings I'd been trying to ignore. The truth was, I cared for her deeply. She'd become an integral part of my life here, bringing laughter and light back into my world when I thought it was gone forever. But was I ready to open my heart again? The pain of Olivia's betrayal was still fresh, the fear of being hurt again ever present. And yet the thought of Sarah leaving, of losing her, was even more painful as dawn broke. I made my decision. I got dressed quickly and drove into town, stopping to pick up coffee and Sarah's favorite cinnamon rolls for the local bakery. When I knocked on her door, Sarah answered, looking sleepy and confused. "Jack, what are you doing here?" So rarely I held out the coffee and pastries peace offering. I was hoping we could talk. She ushered me in, and we sat at her small kitchen table. I took a deep breath. Gathering my courage, "Sarah, I've been doing a lot of thinking about us, about the future. And I realized something: the thought of you leaving it terrifies me. Not just because I miss you, but because I think I'm falling in love with you too. Sar's eyes widen. Jack, I held up a hand, needing to get it all out. I know I've been hesitant. I've been scared of getting hurt again, but you've shown me that not everyone is like Olivia. You've been patient and kind and understanding. You've helped me remember what it feels like to trust someone to let them in. I reached across the table and took her hand. I can't promise it'll be easy. I've still got a lot of baggage to work through. But if you're willing to be patient with me a little longer, I'd like to give us a real shot. Tears were streaming down Sar's face now, but she was smiling. Oh, Jack, of course I'm willing. I'd wait forever for you if I had to. She came around the table, and I stood to meet her, wrapping her in my arms as we kissed. I felt the last of my walls crumbling. I knew there would still be challenges ahead. But for the first time in a long time, I was excited about the future update. 5 years later, I wiped the sweat from my brow as I finished mending the fence in the south pasture. The summer sun beat down mercilessly, but I hardly noticed my mind was on the dinner waiting for me back at the house. So much had changed in the past 5 years. Sarah had turned down the job in Chicago, choosing instead to stay and help her father expand the feed store we dated for a year before our proposé. And now we had been happily married for 3. Bill had retired last year, selling the ranch to me and Tom. It had been a steep learning curve going from ranch hand to owner, but I was loving every minute of it. The work was still hard, but there was an immense satisfaction in knowing that every fence I mended, every cough I helped birth, was contributing to something that was mine. As I walked back to the house, I smiled at the sight of Sarah on the porch, cradling our 6-month-old daughter, Emma. She waved when she saw me approaching. "There's my handsome cowboy," she called out teasingly. "Dinner's almost ready. Why didn't you go get cleaned up?" I jogged up the steps and gave her a quick kiss, then dropped a soft kiss on Emma's downy head. "Yes, ma'am," I said with a wink as I headed inside to shower. I caught sight of myself in the hallway mirror. My face was tanned and weathered from years of outdoor work, laugh lines crinkling the corners of my eyes. I hardly recognized the slick city businessman I'd once been. Sometimes I thought about my old life, about Olivia. I'd heard through the grapevine that things hadn't worked out with Derek last. I knew she was on her 3rd marriage and struggling financially. I felt a twinge of SNES for her, but no regret losing Olivia had led me here to this life that I loved more than I ever thought possible, to Sarah, to Emma, to the ranch. As I stepped into the shower, letting the cool water wash away the dust and sweat of the day, I sent up a silent prayer of thanks. I had lost everything once, only to gain so much more in return. Life had a funny way of working out sometimes. Later that night, as I sat on the porch with Sarah watching the stars come out over the ranch, I felt a deep sense of peace settle over me. This was where I belonged. This was my home music in this tale of calculated vengeance. The question isn't whether justice will be served. It's how completely the betrayers will be destroyed by their own game.